Hello, long time no see. It's been over half a year since the boom of generative large language models, and I've also been following its development trends. But it wasn't until recently that I realized how powerful it is. This is a Blender add-on I created using ChatGPT, and with just a few simple steps, you can easily combine multiple textures into one. Okay, before we get into the main topic, I want to share why I made this plugin. In one of my previous videos, I mentioned a method for combining textures. However, that method seems outdated today. I've tried a few times to recommend better ways to handle texture merging issues to my audience, even recording 2 videos, but they weren't well received. I think there are two main reasons. One is that the previous video was recommended by the YouTube algorithm, which made it harder for users to find my better method. The other is that the better method I recommended involved a paid add-on, and people didn't seem to like it. Additionally, as time passed and I gained a deeper understanding of Blender, I discovered a new and simpler way to combine textures that I want to share with you all. So, for all these reasons, this add-on was born, and it's my first time using AI to create an add-on. Okay, let's get into the main topic. This is a car model. Compared to the car in the previous video, its materials are much more complex. It has simple material models, procedural textures, and pre-made PBR materials. These are its PBR textures. So, how do we combine these complex textures together? My new method is that you just need to handle the UVs well, and then create a common texture to bake each material onto this common texture. This is the main idea behind the add-on I created. Now, I'll show you the new method. First, handle the UVs. Create a UV for each model and ensure they all have the same name. This way, they can be processed together. If you think this is tedious, you can merge all the models and create the UV once. Since I don't want to change the original models, I'll do it one by one here. After adding the UVs, select all the models and enter Edit mode. Since the UVs for each part of the model I've prepared are already unwrapped, I'll unwrap the whole model directly. After UV unwrapping, make sure there is no overlap. Step 2 is to create a common texture for baking in all the materials. Select the materials in the models in order and create an image texture. Name it Bake, or whatever you want. Since this car doesn't have transparent textures, I'll leave the alpha unchecked. You can set this according to your needs. Once you've created the texture node, select it, copy it, and paste it into the materials of the next model. Do this for all the materials and select them. The following steps are repetitive operations. Just place the texture node under the material ball of the model you want to bake. This model doesn't have a material, so keep in mind that cycles can't bake models without material nodes. I'll create a simple material and paste the texture node here. Then do it again for the last model. Now all the texture nodes have been selected. And select all of the models you want to bake. Once everything is ready, we can start baking. Switch to the Cycles renderer. If your device supports GPU, enable it for faster processing. Here are the baking options, which you can select according to your needs. I'll try baking the diffuse color. Here is the margin setting. Since my baking texture isn't very large, setting this too high will cause the textures to overlap. Once everything is ready, you can start baking. This is the final step. After baking begins, Blender will bake each texture node one by one. Notice here, this texture node has a number 9, indicating it's used by 9 materials. This means the car has a total of 9 materials, so Blender will bake 9 times and combine the 9 baked textures together. This part has a carbon fiber texture. I don't know if you can see it. Once you're satisfied with the baking reslut, you can save it. Try baking other types. It will also bake 9 times and merge them. The baking speed is quite fast, and you can choose the appropriate baking type based on your needs. So this is the new method I'm introducing. It's simple, right? Next, I'll demonstrate how to use my add-on. First, install my add-on. Since I'm using Blender 4.2, the location to install local add-ons is here. After installation, the add-on will appear here. It's called Prepare and Bake. The interface of the add-on is quite simple. This area is for adding the models you want to bake. Here, you can automatically create UVs and textures for the added models. The bake setting will be shown to you later. Select all the models and click Add. In this list, you can quickly select the corresponding model. These two icons indicate whether the corresponding model has UVs and materials. Without materials or UVs, Blender cannot bake. This helps you prepare properly before baking. Once materials are added to the models, the icons here will update in real time. The same goes for the UV icon. Since the car's glass is a simple material model, whether it has UVs is not important. As long as the baked UV is handled well, I'll still add UVs here, and the icon will appear. The next step is to handle the UVs for baking. Here, you can customize the name of the UV you want. Click Create UV, and a new UV will be added. The add-on automatically adds UVs to all the models in the list. Then, select all the models and enter Edit mode to unwrap the baking UVs. Next, create the baking textures. The settings here are identical to the settings for creating an image in the material nodes. You can customize the name, set the texture size, and so on. For this bake, I'll enable alpha to see how it turns out. After setting up these steps, you can start baking. Switch to the Cycles renderer and select GPU rendering. The baking settings here are consistent with those in Cycles. Choose the type of baking. The only difference is that I've added a metallic baking type. I discovered that Blender's built-in baking types don't include metallic when I was making this add-on. However, the metallic baking function isn't complete yet. I'll gradually improve this baking type later. Let's bake the diffuse texture. I'll leave out direct and indirect. The margin is already set. Click Bake. You'll notice that my add-on automatically adds the previously set texture node to the material nodes. Then, it follows Blender's built-in baking logic to perform the bake. After baking is completed, the automatically created texture node will be automatically deleted. Also, after baking is complete, the name of the baked texture will turn red. The texture settings will also change. This indicates that a texture with the same name as the custom name already exists. It's a reminder to redefine a new texture for the next bake. Otherwise, the previously baked texture will be overwritten. Next, let's bake an AO map. Select the corresponding baking type. You can notice this area. After clicking Bake, the texture will be automatically created for baking. It's important to avoid making any changes during the baking process, as this could interrupt the baking or lead to unexpected results. Let's do another bake. Switch bake type to normal. Change the name of the baked texture. Click Bake. Once you've baked all the textures you need, you can find all your baked textures here and save them. Usually, normal textures don't need alpha, so uncheck alpha and bake again. After clicking Bake, the previous normal texture will be deleted, and a new one will be created based on the settings. So, this is my add-on. The current functionality isn't complete yet. In the future, I might remove the feature for custom baking texture names and let the textures be automatically named according to the selected baking type. It mainly helps you automate repetitive tasks. When there are many textures to combine, it will save you a lot of time. Next, I'll give you a brief demonstration of how I used AI to create this add-on. This is my ChatGPT conversation interface. I won't introduce ChatGPT. I have used other large prediction models, but I think ChatGPT 4.0 is the most powerful so far. All right, without further ado, here's the conversation I had with ChatGPT when I first attempted to create a Blender add-on. Since I renamed the conversation, its position has been rearranged. I asked ChatGPT, "Can you create a Blender add-on?" At that point, I wanted to evaluate whether I had the ability to create a Blender add-on. ChatGPT listed some requirements for creating an add-on. Seeing this wasn't entirely unfamiliar, as I had seen similar things when installing other add-ons. However, I still didn't know how to start when creating an add-on. The only thing I was certain of was that Blender add-ons are made using the Python programming language, and at that time, I knew nothing about Python. I decided to give it a try and described my needs to ChatGPT. Mainly, I wanted to automatically create texture nodes in the material nodes. Soon, ChatGPT created an add-on based on my requirements. It even came up with a name for the add-on, which I thought suited my description well, but it didn't know the version of Blender I was using. Regardless, when the add-on was created, I was eager to try it out. I copied the code into a text editor. Since I had installed .py addons before, I knew what to do here. I copied the add-on name and saved it as a .py file. Then I went into Blender and installed the add-on just like other add-ons. At that moment, I was quite calm because I didn't expect ChatGPT to create something I wanted. After installation, the add-on didn't appear in the sidebar like other add-ons. I looked and found it here. Next was testing the add-on. I clicked the button and found it only copied the selected model and created a material for it. The name on the button matched the operation result, so I realized ChatGPT misunderstood my description. I tested this button's function. It did create a texture node and selected it, but it connected the output here, which wasn't what I wanted. I went back to ChatGPT to try and get it modified. I told ChatGPT the version of Blender I was using and hoped for a separate panel for the add-on, with the sidebar named T. ChatGPT gave me a new version. As before, I replaced the content in the .py file and reinstalled the add-on. It appeared in the sidebar with the name as I described. Although these two buttons have not been modified, I have great confidence because this time ChatGPT responded exactly as I described. With this confidence, I continued the conversation with ChatGPT. I described the feedback from testing the previous add-on and added some new details. I replaced the code and reinstalled the add-on. I chose another model to test the modified function. Upon testing again, it didn't connect anything and created the texture node but didn't select the created texture node. This led to another round of feedback and additional details. Copying the code, replacing the code, and reinstalling the add-on. This process was somewhat tedious, but every correct response from ChatGPT motivated me to keep moving forward. Now the add-on could set the texture size as I described, testing it on a model without a texture node. It created and selected it. With new feedback and confidence, I engaged in another round of conversation with ChatGPT. Step by step, I conversed with ChatGPT, letting it help me refine and modify the add-on. Look at what ChatGPT provided in the final version of that conversation. You can see that the code has grown much longer than before. I've lost count of how many times I went through the process of replacing the code and reinstalling the add-on. Okay, this is the last version based that conversation. I even added usage instructions for the add-on. You can imagine how excited I was talking to ChatGPT at that time. You can see that this version is quite similar to the current version. It already has the ability to set up textures, create UVs, and has an area to add and remove baked models. Let's test it out. Delete all the previous objects and create two cubes. Click Add, and they are added to the list. This version didn't have the quick selection feature yet. Clicking Create UV Map, the add-on could also create UVs automatically. Next, create materials for these two cubes to test creating texture nodes. This feature also worked correctly. At this point, after processing the UV, you can start baking. Let's bake a combined type. Switch to render mode and set up the scene with a simple point light. Let's bake and see. Since the texture we created is 1024, the UV margin shouldn't be too large. Click Bake. The result came out. You can see that the add-on, at this version, was basically usable. However, its UI and user experience were bad. Let's go back to ChatGPT and see what I did next. After that, I had many more conversations with ChatGPT. This is where I discussed the icons for the materials in the list. You can see that most of the later conversations focused on improving the add-on's user experience. Let's look at this conversation. At that time, I encountered a UI issue and didn't know how to describe my need for a hierarchical interface. I asked ChatGPT to show me some UI examples to see if I could find the UI component I wanted. It gave me a piece of code and told me how to use it. I copied the script, opened the script editor window, created a new blank text, pasted the script, and clicked the Run button. It showed me some UI components here. This was how I optimized the add-on's UI panel. Okay, I think I've covered the process of using ChatGPT to create this add-on. With the surprises ChatGPT brought me, my requirements for the add-on gradually increased. I plan to complete the metallic baking feature in the future. This feature is much more complex than I imagined, and I will share the process then. I hope you can use AI to create your desired Blender add-ons. Finally, I've summarized some insights on using AI to create Blender add-ons. If you want to try, I hope my insights can be helpful to you. Believe in yourself and ChatGPT. Initially, I didn't have any expectations about creating a Blender add-on using AI. I was just trying it out. If I had known the process wasn't easy, I might have given up at the start. Learn as much as possible about Blender and its terminology. Create texture and create texture node are not the same. Accurate descriptions help AI better understand your needs. Describe your requirements in detail. You don't need to present all your needs to ChatGPT at once. You can break down big requirements into smaller, detailed tasks and work with ChatGPT to gradually implement the desired features. Maintain logical consistency. ChatGPT is very obedient. Sometimes, even if the requirements you put forward are not logical, ChatGPT will help you output the script according to your requirements. You will feel that ChatGPT is not smart enough. ChatGPT starts to go around in circles and repeatedly output around the wrong requirements. At this time, You need to check whether there are logical loopholes in the requirements you put forward. If your description is correct, ChatGPT will generally not make mistakes. Give AI some hints. AI isn't omnipotent. There are areas where it may not know how to proceed. You can search for solutions on Google and provide the information to ChatGPT, which will quickly understand your intent. Try to complete the add-on in one conversation. ChatGPT has a memory feature that allows it to incorporate previous conversations into its responses, ensuring continuity in the add-on creation process. Learn some Python, if possible. While it's not necessary, it can save you a lot of trouble. Even if you're unfamiliar with Python, you'll start to understand the code as you work with AI to create an add-on. Use specific programming terminology. Terms like list, iteration, class, if-else, call, encapsulation, and debug can help AI better understand your intentions. Generate only the modified parts. As the codebase grows, modifying it can consume many tokens and time. You can ask ChatGPT to tell you specifically what needs to be changed and then make those changes in the previous script. Make frequent backups of your scripts. Sometimes you may head in the wrong direction and need to revert to a previous stage to redo a feature. Okay, that's all the insights I have for now. Feel free to use my add-on. If you have any comments or suggestions, please leave them in the comments section. See you in the next video.